In the past, gambling used to look like this. A casino, a slot machine, maybe a poker or a roulette table. Now take a look at this graph. It represents a fundamental shift in gambling as we know it. Because today, gambling looks more and more like this.
Boom! DraftKings Casino?
I'm betting rebound props on FanDuel.
Download the PrizePicks app and get $50 instantly.
It's absolutely everywhere you look. This graph represents gross gaming revenue, the amount of money the industry is bringing in after all the parlays, jackpots, and winning bets are paid out. And if you think just a step further, it starts painting a rather alarming picture. Because this isn't just a graph showing industry growth. At the same time, it's directly showing us how much money the American people are losing every single year. And in just about the last 10 years, the gambling industry in the United States has doubled in size. And that's only the part that we can actually measure. This here doesn't include all the offshore crypto casinos or even the entire gray area of the emerging prediction markets like Kalshi or Polymarket. But wait, isn't gambling still kinda bad? I mean, at least according to the American Psychiatric Association, gambling addiction is still classified as a mental disorder. And yet gambling has never been more normalized as right now. Your favorite musicians, actors, podcasters, streamers, I mean, you name it. Gambling is right now being promoted by anyone willing to take the check. Sports broadcasts are filled with live odds and sportsbook sponsorships, and betting apps are sitting on your phone right next to social media and banking apps. Sometimes they're even inside of your banking app. Gambling isn't just an occasional thing people do for fun when out with friends anymore. It's becoming a part of culture itself. All while hotlines are getting more and more calls every year from people struggling with addiction. So, why is gambling on such a big comeback right now? What new psychological tricks are they using to keep people hooked? And as gambling evolves and expands, is there anything that will stop it from potentially turning into the next full-scale public health crisis in America?
Today it is the glitter of bright lights and the 24-hour clink of money that lures the traveler to Nevada's border.
If gambling feels like it suddenly just came back out of nowhere, well, it didn't really. For years, the industry was actually running into a problem. Casinos were aging. Young people weren't interested in going to casinos or taking trips to Vegas for the experience. And for decades, betting on sports was almost entirely illegal outside of Nevada. Now, just because it was illegal, of course, didn't mean that people weren't betting. In 2017, it was estimated that the illegal sports betting market was processing hundreds of billions of dollars in illegal bets. But then, in 2018, everything changes. A Supreme Court ruling struck down the federal ban on sports betting, allowing legalization at a state level instead. And almost overnight, sports betting went from being legal in a state of only 3 million people to potentially the entire country. Before this ruling, Americans wagered just a few $billion a year on legal sports betting. By 2023, that number had exploded to more than $120 billion in wagers, with sportsbooks expanding from just one state to nearly 40. And the way people gambled changed as well. There's no more driving to a casino, no more waiting in line at a betting window. Now, the odds appeared directly inside sports broadcasts. Betting apps sent push notifications to your phone during games, and entire sports leagues began partnering with sportsbooks. Gambling didn't just grow, it began merging with the sports industry itself. The Super Bowl alone drives billions in legal wagers, a sign of just how normalized betting has become in American culture. But legalization wasn't the only force pushing gambling back into the spotlight. At the same time as sports betting was expanding through regulation, another version of gambling was growing almost entirely outside of it: offshore crypto casinos. Unlike traditional casinos, many of these platforms operate from jurisdictions overseas, using cryptocurrency to bypass geographic restrictions. Reports estimate that crypto casinos alone generated more than $80 billion in gross gaming revenue globally in recent years, rivaling some of the largest traditional gambling companies. And instead of billboards or TV ads, they found a different way to grow: Influencers, streamers, YouTubers, social media personalities showing massive wins, flashing crypto balances, and promoting platforms that often exist in a legal gray area. So while sportsbooks were expanding through court rulings and partnerships, a parallel gambling economy was emerging online at the exact same time. And together they created something new, something that the industry had never really seen before. It was constant access. Now you didn't even have to think about gambling, because suddenly it was already part of the things you were doing every day. Watching sports, your favorite online streamer, or scrolling social media. Gambling is more and more getting integrated into people's lives. But at the same time, a huge reason why the industry is growing at such a fast pace isn't just more people playing. To understand why gambling has always been so profitable and dangerous for a society if left unregulated, you have to take a look at the way gambling actually works on your brain. They love to say try your luck. I'm sure we've all heard it before. But if gambling was only about luck, it wouldn't work nearly as well as it does. Because modern casinos, whether it be physical slot machines or sleek betting apps, are not just some games of luck. In reality, they're one of the biggest examples of exploiting the weaknesses of human psychology. For decades, researchers have studied why some activities, like gambling for example, are so hard to stop. And one of the strongest reasons they found is something called a variable reward schedule. Basically, you don't win every time, but you also don't lose every time. You win just enough to make your brain believe that the next time might just be the one. Many studies in behavioral psychology show that unpredictable rewards trigger stronger dopamine responses than ones with guarantees, meaning it's the uncertainty itself that often keeps people addicted, even more so than the potential prize they're trying to win. I mean, let's think about it. If I put two envelopes in front of you, in one of them is a guaranteed $100, no strings attached. But in the other one, there could be $1,000 or there could be nothing at all. And to make it realistic, I won't even disclose what the odds are that the $1,000 could be in the other envelope. Because let's be honest, most people when gambling don't even know what their odds really are. So which envelope would you pick? Well, science and statistics say most of the time you will take the gamble. And casinos have understood this for a very long time. Slot machines, for example, are designed to create near misses, these moments where it feels like you were so close but not quite there. The lights flash, the rolling sounds play, and your brain interprets these experiences as some kind of progress, even when the outcome is still a complete loss. But here's where things start to change. Because these days, those same psychological mechanics aren't limited to casino floors anymore. As technology evolves, the way we gamble evolves with it. Sports betting apps offer live odds that update every few seconds. Now there's micro bets that let you wager on the next play instead of the final score of the game. Notifications arrive at just the right moment, when the game is close, when the team is ahead, or when your last bet almost hit. The system doesn't wait for you to play anymore. It is actively inviting you back, and it knows exactly when to do it. Researchers studying mobile gambling behavior have found that faster betting cycles and constant availability significantly increased engagement, especially among younger users who grew up with digital platforms, basically the ADHD brain. But perhaps the most powerful trick of all is the illusion of control. You see, when people play a slot machine, they know that after they pull the lever, it's completely random. But when someone bets on sports, they analyze statistics, watch the games happen, and follow their teams. It feels different. It almost feels like it's a game of skill. And that perception can make losses easier to justify and wins feel more earned, even though sportsbooks still have a built-in mechanical edge that ensures long-term profits for the house. And this of course doesn't mean that every gambler nowadays becomes addicted, but it does show that modern gambling is successfully evolving to keep the gamblers playing for longer and longer as time goes on. And the more gambling integrates into everyday platforms, phones, social media, even finance apps, the more these psychological systems operate quietly in the background. So the comeback of gambling isn't just about legalization or new technology. It's about normalizing gambling behavior in a society as a whole. The same way we look at watching movies or going out to a restaurant, some things most people do quite often, future generations might look at gambling the same way. It's just another thing people do for fun, right? But these days we are going beyond just games of chance or betting on people. Because today we have to ask the question of what does the world look like when gambling stops being limited to games and we start to gamble with reality itself. So if we take a look at most modern history, gambling has had its limits. You could bet on cards, on dice, on sports, but the outcome always belonged to the game itself. Now imagine a world where the game isn't separate from reality anymore, where almost anything can become a bet. Will a celebrity post a certain tweet? Will inflation rise next month? Will a political candidate win an election? Will the next Darkroom upload be this month? Let's be honest, probably not. Welcome to the world of prediction markets. On the surface, they don't really look like casinos at all. There are no spinning wheels, no flashing slot machines, no poker tables. Instead, they look more like trading platforms with charts, probabilities, percentages, and that's part of what makes them so controversial. Because legally, prediction markets sit in a strange gray area somewhere between investing and gambling. The idea sounds simple. Instead of betting against a house, users trade contracts based on whether something in the real world will happen. If they're right, they profit, and if they're wrong, they lose. Supporters argue that one of the uses for these markets can be improving forecasting by polling collective knowledge, turning these predictions into useful data. Like the outcome for the 2024 presidential election, for example, was more accurate according to prediction markets than actual political polls. But critics, on the other hand, will see a massive risk. Because the moment you allow bets on real-world events, the line between predicting reality and actually influencing it starts to blur very quickly. If a market exists on whether someone says a specific phrase during a live event, what stops this person or someone close to them, like one of their friends, from taking a position beforehand? Traditional financial markets have strict insider trading laws to prevent people from profiting off non-public information for this exact purpose. But when the asset being traded isn't a company, and instead it's reality itself, defining insider information becomes far more complicated. And if we're being honest, quite unrealistic. Most platforms claim to have monitoring for manipulation. They set position limits, track suspicious trading patterns, and ban users who violate rules. But enforcement becomes incredibly difficult when outcomes can be influenced by the very people being predicted, or by communities coordinating online. And unlike traditional casinos, prediction markets don't need flashing lights or addictive sound effects. Because remember, the uncertainty itself is the product. And when anything can become a bet, the world starts to feel like a continuous game. Sports betting merged gambling with sports entertainment. Mobile apps merged gambling with the device you use every single day, but prediction markets merged gambling with reality itself. And when something becomes this normalized, this integrated, it stops feeling like a risk, and it starts feeling like background noise. Just another notification, another percentage, another chance to win something. And when you have an industry that functions overwhelmingly because of the people that are struggling with addiction, it's concerning to see ever more lobbying efforts instead of legislation that puts some kind of guardrails in such a risky industry. And perhaps we've already seen a version of this story before. There was a time when cigarette companies sponsored sports, hired celebrities, and ran ads that made smoking look modern, cool, even healthy. It wasn't seen as a dangerous habit, it was just part of culture, something normal, something anyone could get into. And only years later did society start asking whether the industry had grown faster than the rules meant to regulate it. And turns out they were actually cancer sticks that cause 101 different health risks. And gambling today feels like it's caught in a similar moment, still framed as just entertainment, still expanding into every screen and every social media feed. So the real question isn't whether gambling will go away entirely. It certainly won't. It's whether the next generation will grow up seeing it not as a niche occasional activity, but as a permanent player in everyday entertainment. One that becomes so familiar, we stop noticing where the game ends and real life begins. Good luck out there.